All right, good morning. I am glad to have you guys here. We're gonna talk about one of my favorite drills that I like to use to correct impact, meaning to get forward shaft lean and compress the ball. A lot of you struggle with thin shots, fat shots, but we're talking mainly about thin and then how to correct those and how we can create an impact position that creates forward shaft lean and that compresses the golf ball. So let's talk about how do we create forward shaft lean and how do we compress the ball. Let's talk about what the best players in the world do to compress the golf ball. So what the best players in the world do versus somebody that's a scooper, somebody that actually throws the club like this and the hands are behind the ball. That's what we call as scooping and or casting. So casting is when the club throws like this, scooping is when the club's behind like that. How do we get rid of that, and then what's causing that? Those are the two questions that we want to answer. So what causes a scoop? It can be a couple of different things. Typically a scoop is when the lead arm is deaccelerating through impact, because if this lead arm stops moving at impact, then you're going to notice that the club head has to accelerate. So as you're coming down, if this lead arm deaccelerates, well, this is going to start accelerating, and then it's going to end up being a scoop. But if the lead arm were to keep moving, keep accelerating past impact, you'll maintain that forward shaft lean. So if we want to maintain forward shaft lean, we have to keep this arm moving. Well, we have to back up and go, okay, what assists getting the lead arm to keep moving? Well, what assists it is the rotation of our hips through impact and the rotation of our chest through impact. So as the hips and the chest keep moving past the point of strike, that allows this lead arm to be able to continue to move. Now, it can do it without it. I've had players do that, have a little bit less rotation of the body and still get the hands forward. Then I have some players that get lots of rotation, but still don't get the hands forward. They look like this, lots of hip rotation, but they still with the hands behind. So it's a combination of the chest and the hips rotating along with the lead arm accelerating past impact. That's very important that the lead arm is accelerating past impact. Now, how do they physically compress the ball? That's how we get forward shaft lean. But forward shaft lean alone will not get you to compression of the golf ball. That'll help control the loft. So essentially, forward shaft lean is controlling the loft. So if you struggle hitting the ball really high, then getting the loft down would be very beneficial. But to do that, the handle has to lead. It has to be moving past impact to make that happen. So if we want to be able to compress the ball and de-loft the club, we have to have the shaft forward. Now, how do the best players in the world compress the ball? Well, before I talk about that, you have to understand what forward shaft lean does. So forward shaft lean can potentially make you hit it more thin if you don't understand one thing. So if you look at this angle, you might get some benefit looking at this angle, but if you look at the down the line view, I want you to see that if I go into forward shaft lean like this, you're gonna see that the club gets shorter. See how the club head's moving closer to me? So if I stand here, and I just lean the shaft forward, see how the club comes off the ground? Forward shaft lean makes the club shorter because instead of it being a straight line like this, it's now like this, which makes it shorter. So sometimes working on forward shaft lean, I have players struggle hitting it thin, okay? So if you're trying to work on forward shaft lean, that could be one of the potential reasons why you're hitting it thin, but then it also could be because of the scoop as well. So then how do we correct the problem of when we create forward shaft lean, now that the club's shorter, how do we actually get down and compress the ball? Well, if you look at what the best players in the world do, if you look at the top of their heads at impact, wherever they start at the top, they get a little bit lower, or at address, I'm sorry, but where they go at the top, their head's a little bit lower, but then at impact, their head's even lower. So it's not their head, that's just a reference. What's happening is because they're clearing their hips, and because his butt's staying backwards and it's not going this way, right? So because the butt's staying backwards, the more my pelvis works backwards, the more my chest works down. Well, you got to look at it. Where are the arms attached to and where is the club attached to? The club is attached to the arms. Arms are attached to the torso. So if we want to compress down into the ground to be able to make a strike down into the ground, the chest has to get lower. It's not the head. Now, I get it. If the head looks up like this, it can pull the chest up, but really it comes down to keeping that chest down. So as we rotate, this hip needs to go back and the chest needs to go down to compress the golf ball. So when we're working on this and we're trying to create forward shaft lean like this, well, the club's too high, so now what I have to do is rotate and get the chest down. Now, this is exaggerated, this would be really low, but you can look, my hands are way far forward. Normally, good impact position is closer to here, but see, if I want to get my hands that far forward, I would have to get that low to be able to make decent contact, okay? So keeping that chest down and the pelvis backward, that's important. You can't keep your chest down if the pelvis is going under. See, it's going to want to pull up. So if on the downswing your hips are thrusting towards the ball, your chest is going to come up and out of the shot. And then, because you have great hand-eye coordination and you're not going to allow yourself to top it or hit it thin, you're then going to throw the club to make it longer. So when I throw the club and I scoop, I'm trying to make the club longer. So potentially one reason why you could be scooping the ball is because your hips are going this way, which makes you taller. So then in turn, you have to make the club longer by scooping, because if you try to create forward shaftline with the hips thrusting towards the ball, you're not going to be able to do it. That's important to understand. You're not going to be able to create forward shaftline if the hips thrusting. So how you would tell is you would draw a line on your rear end. So let me hit a shot here. I'm going to show you an example of early extension just to kind of show you if you have that problem. And then I'll show you what good impact position looks like. And then we'll jump into the drill that this whole video is about that really helps with this impact positioning and getting rid of your thin shots. So here's an example of early extension. So this is not something you want to do. So here, so hips went this way. I definitely tried to scoop through the impact zone. All right, so let's switch to the down the line view. So if I draw a line on the pelvis, on the back of my rear end here, you're gonna see, and grab it there. See how, now I didn't come way off the line, but I did come a little bit off that line. And I definitely had a scooping motion. I can see my hands. If you come back to the face on view here, you're gonna be able to see that I definitely threw the hands and see that little scooping motion because I had to make the club longer. And honestly, I still hit it a little bit thin, all right? I still did, right? So that's not what we want to do. We don't want to be thrusting towards the ball because I can't get down and compress the ball. If you watch the top of my head, I think I definitely don't get lower. If anything, I might even get a little bit higher. So let's draw a line on top of my head. You're gonna see as I come through. See, I almost get taller. I couldn't help it because my hips were thrusting this way, right? Doesn't work. So now let's jump into what a good impact position looks like. If I want to really compress the ball, I want to make sure the hands are forward and the pelvis is back like this. So now you should see my head drop as I come down and compress this golf ball. So here we go. I'm just going to make a little half swing here. So here, definitely compress that ball. So now let's take a look at that video. All right, so if you watch, you can see, let's draw those lines again. We'll draw one on the back of my pelvis, one on the top of my head here, so you can see. You can see my butt stayed behind line. And see how my head got lower? Now it's not the head, it's the pelvis going backwards and the chest getting lower, which then brought my head down. But the head's just a good reference point to see if I actually got down to compress that golf ball. So if you look at the face-on view, you're gonna see how I created forward shaft lean right there, a lot of it, and then came through. All right. So I hope that helps explain a little bit of what's going on. We have to be able to, what I call, condense into the ball, and that's like this. Condense into the ball, right? I'm gonna go and put this up just to kind of remind you guys. So, okay, so let's start working towards the drill, right? And then how we're gonna start improving this impact position. I'm gonna use a box, but you definitely don't have to use a box. You can use an alignment rod. I'm going to show two different training aid tools you can use. Okay, so if we take a box like this. Now, you can't necessarily hit a golf shot while doing this because it's just more of a field drill, but I think if you apply it to a golf ball, you'll see a lot of difference. Okay, so I have this box, right? And we're going to pretend the golf ball's inside the box and we're going to put the club right on it, just like that. All right? Now, we're going to put this side of the box in the middle of my stance, right? Because I got a 9-iron here. I'd use something with a little bit of loft. Now, what we want to do is we want to get the hands on this side of the box, and then we want to feel like we're compressing down into the ground. Butt cheek goes further back than where we started. So for here, we want to be further back. But we want to go hands in front, pelvis back. But see, here's the key. The hands have to keep accelerating past the box. So, you know, when you learn how to fight, I've taken a couple of classes, right? And they always teach you when you're punching, you don't want to punch the face, you want to punch the back of the head, right? You want to go through the target. You don't want to stop at the target and make it a pop at the target. You want to put all your mass through the hit into the back of the head, or in this case, through the golf ball to the back of the golf ball. But what we tend to do is we tend to throw all the energy from at and behind the ball. So we're throwing it back here into the ball instead of making it a passive motion, driving it through contact. So what we have to train is the lead arm, the hips, and the chest to turn and pull past the point of impact. So this is a great drill. I call it a mirror drill. So we're gonna mirror impact. So this is kind of step one, just to go, okay, press the hands in front of the box, rotate the hips, rotate the chest. Try to get the chest pointing in front, try to get the hips open. Boom. Okay, there's many variations of this drill. Then we can take a backswing. We can start to rotate, get the club in front of us. Boom. You're going to notice this lead arm has to continue to pull through. If we get to the top and we get it trapped across our chest and then we throw, you're going to see we're going to nail the box way before our hands get in front of it, right? So I think this is a really good mirror drill to go here, turn, 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 boom. Feel like this leads the way and gets in front. Now this would be too much. And you can see my club's hovering off the ground. This is too much. This is exaggerated. This is probably more realistic. So use this as a drill to start feeling how the body should look and feel an impact. But notice though, we have to compress into the ball. It's not by the head going down, right? We're not ducking our head. We're just physically pushing the hips back and the chest is going down and through the shot. One thing that we have to talk about when we work on forward shaft lean, compressing, getting the hands forward, is we have to really focus hard on where the club face is pointed at impact. Some of the common problems I see when we're working on this is we leave the face open. So as we come through, we turn, return, return, and I'm seeing the face pointing almost at the camera right here in front of me, right? So then when you practice this drill, I want you to practice squaring up your face to the box. That's why I like a box or even alignment rod. So you could take an alignment rod on the ground and use kind of the same thing. So if you don't have a box, you don't care to carry a box with you, stick an alignment rod on the ground. It's the same thing. Point it straight in between your feet. Make sure it's perpendicular, right? So just like an X, right? And so you want to make sure that that is square to your target. So as you come into impact, I want you to work really hard on getting the hands forward, but then squaring that face up. You're going to notice to square the face up, we have to do some sort of flexion. Now real quick, look at this angle right here. When I go into flexion, most of y'all have seen me talk about this a lot, flexion. So this motorcycle action of the hand, I know this is through the throttle, but we're talking about opposite, right? So if we flex that wrist, you can see the face shut. If you go into extension, it opens the face, right? So flexion closes, extension opens, right? So you are gonna have to figure out some way, now that you created forward shaft lean, to square that face up. So as you do this drill, even when you press the hands forward, try to keep that face square and notice what your wrist is doing at impact. It's not gonna be an extension like this, and it's not gonna be rotated out where your logo and your glove's facing in front of you. Because if it does that, you're going to see the faces open. You're going to see the logo pointing down the target line, and in some cases, you might even see it pointing left. But I think it's important to put your brain to connect with what the wrists need to be doing at impact as you're creating these positions, or you're going to get a little frustrated in the range because you're going to start blocking shots to the right. So as you do this drill, come down, turn your chest, get the hands forward, feel a little bit of flexion of that wrist, and feel like you get that face square to slightly closed. You'll start to feel that face square up. I think that's important when you work on this drill. You can't just work on getting the hands forward, because again, the whole goal of when you're creating a golf swing is to create a golf swing that creates consistent strike and controls the club face, which is honestly one of the more important things. We can mishit it a little bit on the face and lose distance. As long as the ball goes straight, we typically don't get in big trouble. It's when we lose control of the face and we're missing it left and right really far is when we run into more problems. So now that you've done this drill a few times and you've got a good feel for it, now it's time to hit some golf balls. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of different variations. And you could leave this box here, honestly, to kind of just use it as a reference. So you could still pretend, so put the ball at the edge of the box right here and still pretend the box is there. Right? I think that's a good way to practice. But now what we want to do is we want to talk about a couple different drills. So drill one is a drill that Matt Wolf did a lot, and that's why you see his little starting move. This is a drill he did a lot growing up, and then I think that he did with Genghis. We're going to press the hands forward ahead of the box. We're going to stop here, but then we're going to take a little backswing and then we're gonna come right back. But you're gonna make sure this accelerates all the way up here. It doesn't stop at the ball. What we don't wanna do is go here and then feel like you're kind of popping the hands and flicking at the ball. We don't wanna do that. We want it to be a drive through the ball here, drive all the speed to here. So let me hit a shot here and then we'll look at that on TrackMan. So we're gonna get set up normally. We're gonna press our hands in front of the box, open the chest, open the hips. We're already lower. We're gonna take it back real short. And then we're gonna compress that golf ball, just like that. So let's take a look at that drill. You can see I'm already forward, right? And I just make a little bit of turn and then look how I return right back to that position. Hips are open, chest are open, hands are really far forward, and I'm staying down and I'm accelerating past impact. So I'll do that again. Boom. Just trying to return back to that position. It's a great drill to feel that impact position. It's probably the easiest way to feel it is doing it just like this. Let's talk about the next phase of that. The next phase of that is to not preset it anymore. It's to start normal but do a lot of half swings. So what I like to do now is set up, feel the position, okay, then come back to a normal setup, short swing, and then get to that position. Okay, so instead of starting there, we feel it, come back to normal, and then we get back there, right? So then we're gonna go here, feel it, come back to normal, short, boom. And you're gonna see the biggest key is that I finish in a straight line here with this arm. I'm not having a lot of flick, right? If you have a big L like this between your lead arm and the club, that means you had a lot of release with the hands. I wanna feel like you keep this a straight line as long as possible. Let's do that one more time and then we'll take a look at that video. You'll see. Let's go ahead and do our mirror. Just like this. Come back to normal. Short. Through. So definitely want to make sure that we compress that ball. Let's do it one more time since that wasn't the greatest shot in the world. So mirror. Come back. Short swing. Through. Yeah. So at that point, I've already mirrored. It didn't capture that part, but then I take a short swing. You're going to see my body open. Hands are forward, through, just like that. So work through that progression. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put a warning on this. Where you're going to have the most trouble is in your full swings. You're going to be able to get this down with half swings. So anything below probably chest height, you'll have a pretty good success. Where I see most of my clients lose it is after the arms go further back than halfway, essentially. So anything from here to here, my clients usually do really well after working on this dribble. Where you see the most difficulties when you go to a full swing, when you go past this point here, then all that stuff kind of comes back. So be patient with the process. From the top of the swing to impact, you may have to go a little bit slower and really just grind and use video evidence. I'm really big, guys, with video evidence, because just because you feel something doesn't mean that's correct or that's what's really happening. You need to prove it with some evidence using video to make sure you're actually doing it correctly. Again, you can go through this process, go here, preset that, set up, take a backswing, and then you can try to feel yourself get into that position again. But remember, anytime you're learning a new movement pattern, it's going to be harder to do at full speed. So it's important that you slow things down and you try to feel it. So an example of slowing things down would be swinging at 30% power. Now, what does that look like? Well, I can swing this 9-iron probably around 78 miles an hour. Well, I'm gonna try to swing this at 40 miles an hour. That's really slow. So that looks something like this. So as you're working on this and you're brand new to it, especially if you're a scooper, we wanna go preset, come back, or mirror, go to the top, come down, through, right? It's really slow. I don't have club speed up there, but that only carried 25 yards, 25 yards. So I think it's important that you go slow, so I'm watching myself, I don't have it up there right now, but yeah, I went slow, got in a great impact position. So work through these drills, because I think the better you work through these drills and you go slow and you start creating these impact positions, the better you're going to be. I will say this is especially important with wedges. So if you want to be a great wedge player, work on this till you're blue to the face. If you're wanting to work on those mid-range shots, 20 to up to 80 yards where you're not quite making full swings, this is the best drill that I can prescribe for if you want to become a lot better wedge player. If you can skull one over the green, blade it real easy. You're in the middle of the fairway, 60 yards out. Should be easy at least get it on the green, possibly even put it inside 10 feet, but then you blow it by blading it over the green, probably because you're a scooper or you're not creating that forward shaft lean, you're not rotating past impact. If that is you, these are the drills you've got to do to create those positions. So again, if you work through this progression, and now that you understand that getting down to the ground, it comes from pelvis going backwards and chest going down, that's key. Understanding that when you do forward shaft lean, the shaft gets shorter, so that's why we have to go down and compress. The other key is when you work on this, pay attention to face control. I'll say one last thing. As you work on this, really work on squaring that face up and put an alignment rod in front of you. So you see this alignment rod right here on the ground. I think you can see it. There's an alignment rod on the ground right here. But if you'll stick it straight up and down in the ground where you're aiming, if you'll aim at that and you'll do these short little punch drills, working on starting the ball in line, I think that's important. Because if you get up here and you're working on this drill, mirror, back, so that was right of my target, then you're practicing bad movement patterns. So then what I want you to do is go, okay, I'm gonna work on this drill, but I'm really gonna work hard on squaring that face up where I'm aiming. So now I'm gonna set up, mirror, come back. Still a little bit right, but it was a lot straighter, so let's do it again. Okay, so this time I'm gonna try to get it almost left of the target, just so I can say I've got it there. So mirror, back, that was dead straight. The more awareness you have with your club face, the better you're gonna do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you wanna see any other content from me, like anything specific you want me to cover, please comment down below so that I can be able to serve you guys better. Because again, you're my audience and I wanna help serve you guys. So please comment below with any questions you may have, I'll still answer them. Or if there's any specific videos you wanna watch or you want me to create or do live, let me know and I'll definitely love to help you. By the way, you'll see a link down below, I believe. If you really want to get better, then you need to take advantage of my post-round interview. So it's a PDF, it walks you through a process that you need to go through after every round that helps you diagnose what's going on during your rounds. And then that way, when you go practice, you're practicing to score, to shoot lower scores. This little PDF that I'm giving you that's completely free, all you gotta do is click the link, is gonna walk you through how to create practices based upon how you play. A lot of times we're just practicing on the range, just throwing spaghetti on the wall, hoping that we get better. We're just trying to get better at golf, but we don't really have a plan. This little PDF is gonna help show you how to create a plan based off your performance from your rounds. So take advantage of that, snag that, it's below. It's really gonna help you. Besides that, guys, I had a blast doing these lives. If you have any more suggestions for lives, please let me know. Besides that, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.